Well, good morning again. I'd like to call our meeting to order. Welcome to the folks in the public seating area. Always good to have an audience for our deliberations. Keeps us honest, I suppose. And also welcome to members of the media who are here. I do count 5, so I think we're right. And with that, I'd like to ask you to stand and join me for it.
Pledge of allegiance followed by a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Any public comments this morning? Any matters of grave national security or otherwise? If not, then I'd like to move on to recognitions. Call on Janine, please.
Or to be Linda. Linda Bowen.
Oh, Linda. Yeah, I know.
It's not fresh.
Oh, no.
It's too bad.
Well, why don't we go ahead and acknowledge the employee? Would you come up to the table, please, Linda?
Morning, Linda.
Good morning.
How are you?
Very well, thanks. Good morning,
Morning.
Chairman Denison, members of the board of directors, Mr. Frazier, Carter colleagues, and members of the public. Recently, one of our buses experienced a wheelchair lift malfunction while a Carter Caravan customer was boarding. In response, our driver, Mrs. Tamega Carr, manually operated the vehicle to ensure that the rider was able to board safely and to get off the vehicle. While the rider understood that this is a part of what we do as a bus service, he contacted customer service afterwards, not to complain, but to commend the way Tamega made him feel through the experience. And because of what she did, he said that she made him never feel like it was an inconvenience for her. Tamega has been with the Carter family for 10 years, and she was hired in March 2016. And for the past 10 years, she has been consistently demonstrating compassion, commitment, and excellence in serving our riders and community. Her nomination included these heartfelt words from the rider, Mr. Saberna. She made my day and helped me to feel special. In that simple statement, volumes of care, kindness, and professionalism is what Tamega brings to work each day. Mr. Saberna specifically wanted to show his appreciation for Ms. Carr taking the initiative to manually crank the wheelchair so that he could return home from Walmart safely and not make him wait for another vehicle to come to pick him up due to the equipment issue. When she's not serving our riders and community, Tamega enjoys spending time with her husband and family, traveling and quote unquote online shopping. Looking ahead, Tamega aspires to move into a management role where she can do what she loves doing best, which is helping other people become successful. And we thank Tamega for her example of excellent service, for leadership, and for being a great example for Carter. And so if you will join me in commending Tamega for the great job she did for Mr. Sabert.
Well, I could ask you to then convey on behalf of the board, and I'm sure the leadership of Carter, our appreciation and gratitude to her. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, also, we wanted to do one other recognition if we could. And board members, you received my note recently. It's bittersweet that one of our newer employees, Janine McNulty, who is our current director of HR, will be leaving Carta. And so I just want to take a moment and thank Janine for the amazing work that she's done in our HR department. She's really left a mark. She's moved us years forward. And it's a very personal reason that she's leaving us. And so we want to send her off, wishing her well. She's done very well by Carta. And I don't know if you wanted to say a few words, Janine.
Yeah, I can't. I do not like advice. I'll try not to get emotional. It's very bittersweet. I've enjoyed working for Carta, great leadership team that I'm working with. And the drivers have been kind of funny the last couple of days. They're like, can I tie you to the chair? And so, I've learned a lot. First Union, definitely been a great learning experience, learned everything I think I could possibly know about a pension plan for the first time in my life. So, yes, I have moved us forward years, but we still have years to go. And then Charlene has been kind of our interim helping, but we do have a permanent director starting on Tuesday. So she and I will get to spend one day together because Tuesday's my last day. Her name is Nicole. She comes with great experience. And so I think you will be left in capable hands to continue moving forward. So I just want to thank everybody. And as Mr. Fraser said, it's not goodbye. So
Thank you, Janine. We're sorry that Carter has worn you out so quickly. But we understand your circumstances and wish you best of luck for your future endeavors. Thank you very much. Linda, do you know whether that equipment has been repaired?
It was taken to shop.
It was?
Yes.
Okay, very good. Thank you. All right, so if we could do the CEO report, please.
Yes. Good morning again, Chair Denison, members of the board, my fellow Carta colleagues, members of the public and the media. Thank you for being here this morning. We've been busy since our March board meeting, so I'm going to give you a few of the highlights here. If I can get the slide to advance.
You just want us to look at your picture.
I do. You know, I had less gray hair.
Yeah, that's right.
Then I don't know. I'm gonna let. Yeah, we'll start here. So starting off on April 29th, we held another ambassador celebration where we did two things. Oh boy, you're making it difficult for me.
No,
here.
it got stuck.
You got stuck.
Sometimes a lot of images, it will get stuck.
Okay, this is the one. This is the one we want. All right, ambassador ceremony. We did two things. So first, we've done what we've done in the past, which is celebrated and welcomed Carta's newest employees. And so that's the bottom picture in the center. We welcomed bus operators, shuttle operators, a new dispatcher, and a maintenance technician. But we did something different this time. We also recognized our most tenured employees. And so the top picture in the center, Billy Summerow, who is here, I think. Yes, hi, Billy. And Avon is one of our Carta Go operators. They've both been with Carta for more than 30 years. It's an entire lifetime. And so, yeah. And so the ambassador ceremony now will be to celebrate both our legacy employees and then welcome our newcomers. And so we were thankful to have City Councilwoman Jenny Hill, who's in the upper left. She represents District 2 as our keynote speaker. And then Mr. Ishmael Rivera speaking on behalf of the ATU, Ishmael on the right. And he spoke as well, and we're thankful for that new partnership. We were joined by Carta family, employees, friends of the graduates, and then Director Culp and Director Evatt represented the board. They're pictured in the bottom center there. I don't know, directors, did you have anything you wanted to add or?
Just as another wonderful celebration. I'm so thankful that you started these to acknowledge our new folks and now our employees folks. It's
Yeah,
fantastic.
so we're gonna work from both directions. Yeah, thank you.
These are always worth the same.
Yeah.
It is, like, I know that we always make you read a lot of documents, there's lots of finance and lots of worrying and strategizing that we do, but this is one of the more fun opportunities. I'd encourage you to attend in the future if they have the opportunity. Okay, next up, on April 21st, I was happy to present our 20-year transit vision to the City of Chattanooga City Council. And I'd like to thank the employees who showed up to demonstrate their support of the plan. And so on the left-hand side, we were in the small conference room. You can see we had bus operators, shuttle operators, car-to-go operators, maintenance technician, and incline employees that all came. And so when we did our town halls recently, we invited the employees start to come to some of these opportunities where we're talking to the city council about what we're doing. And so they did. You'll recall, board members, that we spent almost an entire year last year consolidating the prior transit studies that had been done on CARTA and building those directly into the city's comprehensive growth framework called Plan Chattanooga. And so the overarching goal, as a reminder for everyone, is that first, number one, that CARTA's vision is 100% aligned with the city's growth strategy. And number two, we want to make sure that the city leaders consider future transit and parking needs when they're making decisions about land use or investments today. And so this is particularly important as we're doing studies on Brainerd Corridor and Broad Street. As a reminder for you, I think I have one image here. The Plan Chattanooga, our 20-year vision includes 15-minute frequency on 6 of our existing fixed routes, 30-minute frequency on the remaining 5, 8 new fixed routes, expanded shuttle routes, a downtown transit center, 33 mobility hubs, 35 miles of high capacity, that's express transit, 4 car-to-go microtransit zones, expanded caravans service, opportunities for new parking, commuter service from the external counties, and then a plethora of transit supportive investments. That is 53 miles of sidewalks, 70 miles of redesigned streets, 200 signal light upgrades, and then 16 miles of new greenway. So this presentation, I think, was very well received by City Council. I appreciate Treasurer Allen, who sent me a little note afterwards. I know that you watched it as well. But we are looking forward to our next presentation to City Council this summer, where we will present our 5-year transformation roadmap. And that's really where the rubber hits the roads. Any questions on the presentation to City Council? Okay. Moving on, and this is related to the 20-year vision, but I want to just remind the board, and I'm going to do this almost every meeting, about our transit-oriented development study of Brainerd Road and Lee Highway. This is called Connect the Corridor, and I'm happy to let you know that the project is officially underway. So we've started. As a reminder, and if you kind of just follow the bullets at the upper right, this is an award that CARTA competed for. And we were awarded grant funding. It's a $700,000 study, and it focuses on one of the 2 high-capacity corridors in our 20-year plan, and that's our Route 4 service. And that backbone, the bottom right, it runs from downtown all out Brainerd Road, Lee Highway to Hamilton Place Mall. And so our study is going to do several things. It's going to identify key locations for stations at future bus rapid transit locations. It is going to flesh out the express service that will ride on top of the local route of Route 4. So there'll be two services that run on the corridor. And the key there is the express route will cut the travel time down in half. So it's really going to be a quick way for people to move through the city. And then just related to this, I'd like to have you know that as part of this, we are identifying infrastructure gaps along the corridor. That means, where there's sidewalks missing, dangerous intersections. And right now, Annie is working on a large grant application, Safe Streets for All. We're going to be applying for $3 million to start to get design and construction documents for those missing pieces of infrastructure. So this is going to be a way that we're just continuing to build on the grant awards, eventually culminating in grant dollars to actually construct. So that's coming. And then finally, the study is going to make recommendations for land use and zoning policies. On the left, this is a rendering of what the corridor could look like in the future. You see kind of the walkability, the enhanced transit station, the express station there. But then also, and the reason I'm giving you this update today is that we had our kickoff meeting. So this was 2 days. April 23rd and April 24th, we hosted our consulting team from Arcadis, and then we had members from both our technical committee and our steering committee. And so you can see here large groups of people. I'm going to ask Director Evatt for his comment in a minute, but basically we got the folks together. We did a map exercise on the table in the conference room, identifying the sections of the corridor And then we hopped in the bus on both days and actually rode the corridor, taking inventory of vacant lots, opportunities for stations, missing sidewalks. And just to give you an idea of who's participating in this project, the steering committee is made up of representatives from CNE, Invest Chattanooga, Trust for Public Land, the Happy Urbanists, the Mayor's Council on Disability, Thrive Regional Partnership, Outdoor Chattanooga, and then we have appointees from the city council members in districts 5, 6, 8, and 9. So there's large representation here, and so we took both of those groups on the tour. The next thing that will happen will be in June when we have an open house. We invite the community in to start to see what we're planning for the corridor. Director Evatt, any questions or comments? You were there for half of the day.
Yeah, it was just a great learning opportunity for myself to hear from both kind of the technical experts on the one day and then the community experts on the other day, and those different perspectives and how they very often align. So, yeah, it was fantastic.
One of the things that we're trying to do in this process is we're working very closely with TDOT. They are on the steering committee because this is a state road. And we really think that if we keep them involved from day one, we won't catch them with any surprises, right? So this is about improving intersections and roadways that they own and operate. So we want them at the table as we're doing this. Any questions here? Okay, moving on. You're making it easy for me. Next, I want to let you know that you can all feel very proud that CARTA was represented very well at FTA's annual State Safety and Oversight Rail Workshop. You can see our very own Matthew Higgins and Mark Logan participated in a panel discussion about the Lookout Mountain wildfire. And in particular, we were on a panel because of the best practices that we followed in getting the system back online and getting our safety certification. And so really from a national point of view, they were looking to Chattanooga, specifically to Matthew and Mark and their efforts in making sure we were safety certified properly so we could get back in business. So I want to just give kudos to our team for that good work. Also, want to let you know that I'm our new Chief Financial Officer, Melanie Jones, might be getting a little bit of the transit bug. And so this is it tucked away, like the third on the right here of this picture is Melanie. And she is on board a packed WeGo bus in Nashville. And this is the Transit Finance Learning Exchange Network. And this is critically important for Melanie as she is, getting acclimated to CARTA, but also it's going to provide her with an easy button as it relates to picking up the phone and calling people that are dealing with the exact same things that we are. The grants that may become less available, new grants that are opportunity, but all these things on the right, system implementation, change management, process improvement, regulatory compliance support, grant management, project reporting. And so it's my hope that Melanie, as she starts to interact with these peers, she's got an easy way to get acclimated and good information quickly. Next up, just CARTA in the community. I want to make sure the board, we do a lot of good work. And when I say we, I mean Brandon and Savannah, our comms team over here. We are out in the community, so we try to put everything on LinkedIn and Facebook, but I don't know that you always see it, so I bring it up here. First on the left, we had a great time at the Creative Discovery Museum's Day of Play. We had the eJust shuttle out there. This is a great opportunity for kids to get on, touch, feel, see a public transit vehicle, gets them thinking about transit. And then on the right, if you haven't seen or met Ms. Gigi yet, you're going to meet her soon. She is one of our long time riders, and we have a special video. If you go to our LinkedIn, you'll be able to see that. But she's actually wants to come and address the board in the near future, so we're excited about that. She's on our rider advisory committee. She's very vocal. She's always showing up, so we really count her as a pioneer. And we're glad that she's with us as we start to make changes and can contemplate new things in the system. So keep an eye out for those things. Finally, I just wanted to share with you, if you didn't hear me on WGOW with Jed and JR. So I don't know if Treasurer Allen might remember this, but it was maybe my second week here in January of 2024. And they called and they wanted to know, would I call in? They wanted to talk to the brand new CEO. And so I called in. I didn't know what I was getting into. talk radio, and they had like all these callers calling in, and they said, you know, Mr. Fraser, welcome. We want you to fix this parking problem. And so that was, and I was like, well, I'm 2 days in, but like I'm happy to do. Anyway, I've been a pretty regular on their show, but they invited me into the studio, and we spent a full hour, and we talked about public transit, we talked about the incline, we talked about parking and the new consumer protections that are going to be going into place. But I wanted to just give a shout out to Jed and JR. They've been such good supporters of us. And if you ever want to go with me, I'm going to be going in like every 6 weeks. It's a regular thing.
So on that note,
Yes.
parking is my pet project. Have you fixed the parking yet?
Yes, it's completely fixed. Yes, it's all fixed. You know, I think it's on our agenda today, board members. You know, I think that we're taking a step in the right direction with consumer protections and enforcement ordinance. It was a huge lift to get this approved by the city, but it will start to create opportunities where these private owners of public parking assets need to give a reasonable rate. They need to let you park for just an hour. It's not a 10-hour minimum. So it'll be a step in the right direction. So I hope you'll consider that when we get to that.
Yeah, when we discussed it, I just am going to preempt it by saying I truly do believe that this is a major breakthrough in fixing the parking
Yeah,
problem.
it's a step in the right direction. That concludes my report. I would be happy to take any questions. But if there's none, I did want to let the board know that Ms. Carr has joined us. And so maybe we could take a minute to recognize our employee, if you would like. Ms. Carr, come on up. Come on over here first. I want to just take a minute and Ms. Bullard shared with us the great customer service that you provided to one of our riders. And I want to thank you. I'm sure the board would agree. It's that extra care and the way that you make somebody feel is what they're going to remember. And so I want to thank you for representing me in that way. That's how I try to do my business. And so thank you very much. You've done a great job. I want to present you with a certificate, a gift card for you, and then anything that the chairman would like to say as well is for you.
Yeah, I would just like to add the same words, and I think what you did exhibits the kind of positive attitude that also reflects the Carter culture. And for that, I want to say thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. You're welcome.
Also, the extraordinary effort you took to get that person up on the lift. Cause I know from the ground to get it up is 100 pumps. And then another 20 to get it up right, so you can close the doors, so. That's off to you, girl.
Are there any comments or questions to the CEO report? All right, thank you very much, Charles.
You're welcome.
Moving on to our consent agenda. The material has been distributed for your perusal and review. Are there any comments, additions, amplifications, corrections to the minutes for our March 19 board meeting? I do them individually or as a package deal?
You can do the consent agenda as a package.
All right. Any comments, corrections, amplifications to the minutes of the executive committee meeting, which took place on May 14? Apparently, everybody's extremely happy with it. And the statistical report has been distributed. Always very insightful. Any comments or questions? Mr. Dufault, thank you. I'd like to ask for a motion to approve the consent agenda and minutes as distributed. Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, I think we have unanimous consent to the consent agenda. Action items. Any procurement report, please? Ms. Spendthrift.
Good morning, Chairman Denison, Board of Directors, Carta colleagues, Mr. Frazier, and the public. This morning I'll be going over the procurement report for May, and it can be found on page 26 of your packet. This month, I'm bringing a report for all 4 sections, A, B, C, and D, which is board approval of new procurements, request for approval of the request for proposals process, report on sole source procurements, and report on emergency procurements. And I'll start with section A. Staff is requesting approval for 4 different contracts here. For the first agreement, staff is requesting approval for preconditioning improvements and wayside cooling at the Incline Railway with BJB Construction Company for $105,071. The estimated date of completion is June 30th. This procurement was completed through an invitation for bids process. The second agreement is for uniform rental and cleaning services for Carta's maintenance employees. Staff is requesting approval to enter into an agreement with UniFirst Uniform Services for 5 years for a not to exceed amount of $350,000. This procurement was completed through the request for proposals process. The third agreement is for website redesign services. Staff is requesting approval to enter into an agreement with Exemplify LLC for a 3-year period for a not to exceed amount of $300,000. This procurement was completed through the request for proposals process. And the fourth and final agreement under section A is for auditing services. Staff is recommending that Carta enter into a 5-year agreement with Malden and Jenkins for a not to exceed amount of $216,500. This includes Carta's financial audit as well as the pension and disability plan audit that is conducted each year. If there's any questions, I can take them or I can carry on. Okay.
I have one
Yes,
question.
sir.
And I don't know if you can personally answer this, but are we highly confident that the cooling system will be completed by the target date? Because summer is here.
That's correct. I will find out more. That was the date that they gave based on receival of equipment, but I'll confirm with them.
Let's hold their feet to the fire.
I can comment on it. As soon as it's approved today, they will do the order of the main cooling piece. They're gonna start work right away. So they'll get all of the land area prepared, the vehicle will be prepared. The long lead time item is the cooling unit itself, but all of the pre-electrical work will be done. So we'll be dependent on that, but they're ready to go.
Good.
For section B, staff is requesting approval of the use of the RFP process for an upgrade to the incline drive system. The current scope of work for this procurement requires that evaluation criteria other than price be considered when awarding a contract for this work. The RFP process will allow Carta to evaluate proposals based on safety and continuity, as well as experience, technical approach, and other factors necessary to select the most advantageous proposal for Carta. This work will be awarded under one agreement, but completed in scheduled phases to reduce shutdown time of the incline road. For section 3, there are 4 procurements to report on. The first is for yearly software maintenance services from Trapeze in the amount of $77,200. Trapeze provides Carta's scheduling software for its fixed route and paratransit services. A sole source was needed for this procurement for continuity of operations and due to increased costs for deployment of new systems. Carta will be investigating new alternatives for this software in FY27. The second sole source procurement is for permanent lights at the Incline Railway from Nuga Lights for $38,300. A sole source was required for this procurement as Nuga Lights uniquely offered technology controls for the lights and is in a position to be able to provide larger scale lighting projects in the future. Carta reviewed MSRP and installation pricing, including pricing provided to other customers, and it has determined the price provided to Carta is a fair and reasonable rate.
You couldn't persuade them, Annie, to knock off the 49 cents?
The 49 cents? Apparently not. The third procurement is for daycare transportation services with Chambliss Center for Children, not to exceed $12,600 through the end of the current school year, which is today. In March, the existing third-party contractor for this service ceased operations and no transportation was available for the students for 4 days. Chambliss reached out to other transportation providers, but was not able to secure a third-party provider with the short turnaround time and only 2 months left in the school year. Chambliss is currently providing the service directly for the short term, and an invitation for bids has been sent out by CARTA with the caveat that the contract won't be awarded unless local funding is secured. To provide this service, Chambliss has expenses associated with 2 part-time drivers, leasing 2 vehicles, insurance and fuel of approximately $1,800 per week. They have provided transportation services since April 6th and will continue providing them through today. Deposits from last school year during April and May with the prior contractor were $16,848, of which CARTA paid $13,309 and Chambliss paid $3,538. The fourth sole source
Can
procurement.
I ask on this, if you
Yes.
don't mind? I think this is a really important service that is very disruptive if not provided. We are kind of stepping in here, and what you're describing essentially is a emergency placeholder solution. Do we have an idea of what a sustainable permanent solution looks like?
I could maybe take a stab at this. The answer is yes, we do. In this situation, just for the board's kind of recent memory, we had a 5-year contract with a provider who ran into some financial difficulties and they canceled the contract. So this that you're seeing is the kind of the plan B to complete this school year.
The tail end of it, yeah.
The tail end of it. And then also for the board, we had a pretty robust discussion about this. We put a new RFP out for the next future years, and we put a request into Hamilton County government to fund that moving forward. And so within that contract mechanism, we will put some teeth in that. So to answer your question about, not being disruptive, we'll put some teeth in that, and whether that's in the form of liquidated damages for, leaving the contract or something like that. We can put some teeth in that.
So I think the reason I raise this is, firstly, it's kind of near to my heart in terms of my other work on workforce development, and the provision of daycare facilities is a crucial enabling mechanism. But similarly, if people can't get there, that doesn't help. And I think it's important then for all of us to understand that our appeal for financial support to the county, this is absolutely of paramount importance for the residents of the county. And I would hope that it will fall on sympathetic ears to enable CARTA also to play its role as a facilitator in execution of our mandate to support our community.
Yes, and thank you, Chairman. And if I may, the timing's actually perfect. Mayor Womp delivered his State of the County address earlier this week. And it's clear that, one of the county's objective is workforce development. And this program allows for people that work odd hour jobs. So it's firemen, it's nurses, it's those odd hours. The way they use this is they are able to drop their kids off it's 3 a.m. There's no school hasn't started. So they drop them off at the Chambliss Center, and then the transportation piece is how the kids get to school thereafter. And so I would encourage the board to use your network to reach out to county commissioners, maybe even to County Mayor Womp himself, just to articulate the importance of that particular request that we had put into our stack.
I think, they probably get many, many requests for hundreds of different things. And we need to make sure that this one in particular is illuminated. I'm pretty confident that once they grasp the importance of it, they'll be very supportive.
Yes.
But if they don't know about it, they don't know about it.
I can report that when I did my budget presentation to the county commission, and so the commissioners were there, and there was a lot of robust discussion about this particular item. So we had 6 very distinct programs that we were presenting, and they were somewhat curated to make sure that it resonated with the commission. So they're familiar. They're absolutely aware.
All right.
Okay.
Annie, sorry to interrupt you,
No.
but it was an important topic.
The fourth sole source procurement is for financial NetSuite implementation services. Initially, this procurement was conducted using small purchase procedures that don't require board approval. However, as recent as January, Carta has had need to extend this engagement to complete implementation, including the bill capture module that was added at the October board meeting. At this time, Carta has estimated that additional resources will be required past this estimated date through December 31, 2026. The estimated cost of this effort with LBMC is not to exceed $105,840. Carta required a sole source for this work as it would be cost prohibitive to change implementation team members as they have the institutional and project knowledge that is essential to finalize the production environment.
I want to make a comment again. Melanie, as we've discussed offline, I think the entire board understands the need for this and this transition phase that we're going through in our IT conversion. On the other hand, as I have said, you have heard this enough times now to beg me not to say it again. This is the gift that keeps on giving. I would like to say that I hope that the board will support this request. On the other hand, we would also need to ask you to develop a concrete plan for a final sunset. It can't be indefinitely opening. Is that fair?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, and finally, Carta has one item under emergency procurements. As you know, Carta's Director of Human Resources is leaving, and Carta required an interim Director of Human Resources while a new director was being hired. Carta has entered into an emergency agreement with Robert Half Recruiters, an employment agency, for $78 per hour for the provision of temporary professional services for an interim Director of Human Resources. That concludes my report, but if there are any other questions, I'm happy to take them now.
Any that bid on the lighting for the Incline Railway, that's upper and lower station.
Is that right? It's hard to hear. Okay.
You just have light at the top and shine it down at the bottom.
I'd love to line up the tracks.
I agree.
In future.
I just want to acknowledge the opportunity with the website redesign. I think we're well overdue for that, and I looked into Exemplify some of their work, especially what they did in Sacramento in terms of accessibility is the best I've ever seen. This is also a hefty price tag, so I'm just in acknowledging both of those. I want to make sure we get what we paid for, and since they have shown the ability to make exceptional websites, I just want to make sure we get what it's on.
Yeah, thank you for that, Director Evatt. And so the project lead will be Brandon Meredith, and we're really looking forward to, so, you know, we've, in a couple of years, the 3 years that we've all been working at this, the website was, upgrading the web technology was a little bit lower priority. We've been focused on some bigger things. So now it's time to address this. This will become the main communication tool externally for folks. It's very important that we get it right. So number one, we will certainly look at the Sacramento and understand, but also there may be an opportunity that we could even, I'll maybe ask Brandon to follow up with you and just kind of maybe just vision a little bit and give us kind of just articulate some of your thoughts on it, because we want to get this one right for sure. And so, yeah, we'll follow up with you on it.
Yeah.
Corey, we'd appreciate your insights on this. I think, speaking about the team, you are a knowledgeable resource that we would like to draw on. And if it works, then that'll be the team's success, and if it fails, we can blame you.
Yeah, I would encourage the board. It's Sacramento's, as an example, is sacrt.com, and especially mobile friendly is exceptional. And there's a little pop up in the bottom that is accessibility that has everything from color blindness to dyslexic friendly fonts to all sorts of things that makes it like incredibly user friendly. So check it out.
And as a side note, Henry Lee is their CEO, who I crossed paths with in Jacksonville. He was their CFO there. So Henry's done a great job, and we could actually set up a meeting with his team and just kind of get through kind of their lessons learned If that might be, I think probably a good place to start for us,
So
so.
much of this could be a copy paste.
Yeah, we'll take a action item on that, Brandon. If you and I do that, we can reach out to Henry and get his assistance with his team.
It would really be useful, you know, to reinvent the wheel, you know.
Yeah, maybe for, I'm so sorry. I was wondering about AI, if it's integrated in the model of the website.
Is AI integrated into the modeling of the website? Do we know?
I don't know if we've gotten that far yet. I'm sure it's an option to do that.
You just from, I don't know, that's not my expertise, but we're, at least our organization is transitioning to like use of more AI actively. So maybe this would be.
That would be good. Maybe what we'll also do, so we'll take a second action item on this. Daniel, maybe we could get your expertise as we are, you know, negotiating the terms of the contract, and or if we need to expand the scope somewhat to make sure that there's a pathway. But I do believe that there's future steps, development opportunities that we could look at. So the AI pieces, I hear you on that.
Even in the price, because at the rate that is growing, a lot of things in website use are being made by AI, so like how we
Yeah.
transition. And that.
Thank you. Will do.
Thank you, Benny. Are there any other questions or comments to the procurement report?
Johan, just to support or kind of have more understanding about your question related to the. What was, sorry, the, oh my God.
The NetSuite conversion?
Yes,
Mhm.
thank you. So. It's until December this year, and then we will need a plan. Just to have like an expectation when the plan should be ready, so.
So exactly right. I mean, they're already telling us that don't think this is the last request, shouldn't they? And I'm saying, okay, I hear you, but we can't have it open-ended, and my request really is our next opportunity when we discuss this, which will by implication be a request for yet another extension. I would like that to be the last one. And we need to sort of get a robust plan that we can sunset it.
So, but that's not December,
No.
it should be before.
Well, I think the implication is that probably before the end of this year, Annie will be explaining to us a request for a Q1 project, Q1 next year, to sunset it. Would that be a fair conclusion?
Well, if I may, two things. I had recently, I'll dig it up. I distributed to the board a assessment that we had Arcadis, one of our consultants, do as it relates to all of our systems, including the NetSuite piece. And the takeaway from that was very specific as the immediate next step. The immediate next step was do not buy any other modules. Don't try to integrate your procurement pieces yet. But the action is document your processes internally first. Document your procurement process, document your accounts receivable process, document your accounts payable processes. And Melanie and I will take that report and build out the game plan, including possible add-ons. I think what the board, I'm gonna say it differently. I think what would make the board feel comfortable, my recommendation is we present you with a plan to get what we've purchased into a production mode that we could just move on and live at that. But what I want to make sure that you don't get confused with is once we present that, we're also going to present if we want to take it to the next level and integrate procurement, if we want to take it to the next level and integrate grants management. Those are other things.
Understood.
Okay.
So you'll be expanding the scope of.
Yes,
the
but
kind of core product that is there.
that's right. And I think that that's what you're asking for is like, well, how do we get this basic production? Like, well, you don't want an endless spend of money on the basic production. So we'll set up a plan and we'll be able to deliver that to you. I would imagine no later than September. Because that's
So we need to distinguish between getting the core
production
product
ready.
implemented, executed, operational, And then there are enhancements,
Okay.
right?
Okay, can do. Thank you. Yeah, thank you for that.
Thank you.
All good? Motion to approve the procurement report.
As a motion, we approve.
Second, all in favor? Any opposed? Approved, thank you. Financial report. Melanie.
Yes, so for the month of April of 2026, Carta posted an operating loss of $383,000 and a year-to-date loss of $246,000. The primary areas impacting these results, including some grant funding delays, then that impacted the transit, the fixed route, as well as caravan, most notably. We also still, on an annual basis, we had the delayed reopening of the incline, so there was it's a shortfall at the moment, and I'll elaborate a bit more on that in a moment. And we also had some lagging parking costs that came through a little later than planned. So all of that to say, this is a full recapture of all expenditures, and missing some grant revenues that we'll see in subsequent period. We still expect a break-even performance for the year, consistent with our current run rate, which is consistently tracked and monitored. The 2026 budget reporting still reflects the previously incorrectly budgeted revenue that was established previously by my predecessor for both the CARES money and the incline insurance proceeds. Those were actually recognized in 2025 and included in the 26 budget. So we still have that adjustment. This necessitated a budget amendment that was approved at the April 14th executive session. The budget amendment will be posted and reflected before year end. And once this update is reflected in the reporting, the financials will more closely reflect the alignment of our revenues and expenses for the full year that will result in a break-even performance for the year.
So allow me to respond. I accept management's reassurances that the performance year to date is not predictive for the performance that's expected rest of the year. At the same time, I think I would want to draw the attention of everybody in the room to the fact that looking forward is based on certain assumptions. And the assumptions can be very robust, and we can have a high degree of probability that they'll occur, but nobody can foretell the future immaculately. Sometimes the assumptions, as professional and as insightful as they were, may be obfuscated by unexpected developments. And where I'm headed is, if we continue on this current trend and we don't course correct, we will face the reality of landing at the wrong airport, because we will have a very significant financial deficit. And the reason I'm raising all of this is to illuminate our ongoing vulnerability in not having an operational reserve. The operational reserve is precisely the safety net that any organization needs to cover you for unforeseen events which work against your business assumptions. And Carter continues to run naked down the street with no contingency, no operational reserve. And I am going to implore management and my fellow board members that we need to be aware of the very, very real risks that we continue to incur in effectively having no safety net, and that we need to begin to build an operational reserve. And the best time to start is as we start looking at our budget planning for the next financial year. We have kicked the can down the road ever since this board became a board. Every year we say next year. We cannot continue to do this. We just cannot. We will not continue to be this lucky. It is just impossible. Right? Okay, thank you.
Can I ask about the like grant funding delays? So
Yes.
those come in now in May, or are we assuming they'll come in June? Or
So now,
okay,
literally just today.
Okay.
So those are those, in this specific example, the PM grant related funding. So it is a reimbursement. So you have to spend the money, which you see an expense,
yeah.
but if the revenue doesn't come in until you have all of the information process. So the team's doing a really good job. We've tightened up our overall process so that we very quickly kick over to, once the books are closed, kick over to the grant requests, so that we have a really tight timetable that we operate on. But even in the best scenarios, some of the invoices that don't come in as quickly as we would expect don't necessarily get captured, and that's what's happened here.
Well, all that hit in the May version of this report, so we'll kind of see the opposite, kind of an inflation.
Yes.
Revenue side of it. Thank you.
Any other comments? Questions?
I might make one, sorry. Just for the board to be aware too. And I hear you, Chairman, and I'll work with Melanie on carving out the operational reserve and the contingency for that. But as a reminder, when we found ourselves in February running in the red, at that time, we gave the board kind of a plan of attack. And so I just want the board to be aware that for the real time, like today type of things, there's several things that are going on. And they just take a little time to put in place. So for example, the negotiations with the union, there was some give and take on the daily overtime. We're thankful for that partnership. Staff, from a planning standpoint, has created, by small reductions of service, an extra board such that we won't always have to be paying overtime to address the operator shortage that we have, that's real time. And then just overall management of overtime. And so Melanie's team has now gotten into a cadence that we can see this on a recurring basis. So I hear you. We'll take the lead on presenting an operational reserve and what that means, because there's gonna, at the end of the day, there's revenues that we can generate and there's expenses that we have to have, and you, to pull those levers, it's often maybe a reduction of service to reduce expense or an increase in fares or operational policies. So we'll bring that. I just want to make sure it doesn't, that this board knows that these are things that we're aware of and we'll bring.
Charles, certainly.
Yeah.
I don't think that Carter runs itself.
Of course.
And I don't think that coming from an operational deficit to the expected black zero result happens because the plane is on autopilot.
Yes, of
It's
course.
happening because intervention has taken place of all the items that you've described and some more. And essentially, we've enhanced operational efficiencies to do more with less, to sort of cut our suit to fit our cloth. All of this is recognized. Nevertheless, I don't think the fact that management has responded and done the course correction is the only avenue to peace of mind. We have to build the operational reserve, because there could be times when we don't want to see, for example, a dramatic cutback in services in order to bring the plane to land at the right airport. That's when, if you need to, strategically, you draw on your operational reserve to tide you over. That's right. And we just simply have to build this.
We got it.
Okay. All right. Motion to approve the financial report.
To approve.
Second, all in favor? Any opposed? Thank you, Melanie. Approved. Bank account signatures.
Do you not have a slide?
Yes, no, within, your handouts, we're discussing the First Bank authorized signatures proposal,
What page?
page 34. The current signers are on page 35. with the recommendation to add me, the CFO, and Scott Wilson, our chief of staff, to the signer list. That is the only action that's being requested in this memo. And that is simply to allow there to be a greater opportunity to ensure you've got the right person at the right time as we need to expend funds.
It doesn't seem to be too an extraordinary request. I don't think anybody would find it contentious.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Motion to approve,
Motion to approve.
opposed? No, we need a second first.
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? All right, you've got your signatures.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Brent?
Sir.
This is a good topic.
Yes, sir. Excited.
It is a major milestone topic.
Yes, I would feel agree. Mr. Chairman, Board of Directors, Carta staff and guests. I'm going to talk about the Consumer Protection and Parking Compliance Ordinance update that we've been working on. It's on page 36 in your memo. We've also got it on the screen. The purpose of this memorandum is to present staff recommendations for licensing requirements for private parking operators participating in the regulated enforcement program, and also for the community support programs, which we're going to cover within the memo, including the amnesty period, the hardship program, and the food for fines program. The background, when the new board came on in 23, 24, staff identified a parking system with a significant backlog of unresolved on-street parking violations and limited enforcement tools. Rather than immediately implementing enforcement, we developed a phased compliance strategy focused on voluntary resolution through an amnesty program followed by targeted enforcement for chronic violators. Prior to us being able to implement that, changes in Tennessee law eliminated the city's ability to enforce parking violations without adoption of a local ordinance. As a result, Chattanooga lacked an enforcement mechanism to address the chronic non-payment of the parking citations. At the same time, community stakeholders and elected officials expressed concerns to us regarding limited parking availability in downtown Chattanooga, as well as excessive pricing and fines imposed by some private parking operators. This year, on April 14th, 2026, the City of Chattanooga formally adopted the Consumer Protection and Parking Compliance Ordinance, establishing a local enforcement framework permitted under Tennessee law. It also established consumer protection standards for all enforcement activities. And it also granted authority for the Chattanooga Parking Authority to serve as the licensing administrator for all the parking operators that chose to enroll. The ordinance also authorizes the Carta Board of Directors to establish licensing requirements and define community support programs to guide the implementation of this. This ordinance will enable the implementation of Carta's phase compliance strategy by combining targeted enforcement of chronic violators, the regulation of private parking operators, and also community-based pathways for voluntary compliance. The goals of this program is not to generate revenue, but to ensure fair and consistent access to parking. Parking spaces are a limited resource that supports local businesses, employees, residents, and visitors. Chronic non-compliance reduces turnover and limits availability for responsible parkers. First thing we'll talk about here is the licensing requirements for the private operators, which we've got on the screen. Participation in the regulated enforcement program is voluntary. However, only the licensed operators who choose to participate may utilize the enforcement tools authorized by the ordinance. Staff recommends, in addition to the express requirements that are in the ordinance, the following licensing standards. There would be a maximum hourly rate not to exceed 150% of the on-street rate. So our on-street rate max is $2. So they're going to be capped at $3 on that. The maximum daily rate would be $18. The minimum parking increment would be, they would have to offer 1 hour minimum parking option. Some offer 3 or 4 hour minimum. They have to offer a 1 hour minimum. The max,
Some of 8.
yeah, it goes that high probably too. Yes, sir. Maximum citation amount not to exceed the daily rate plus a $25 fee, which there are others that are putting higher fees than that out there. The maximum escalation fee after the 30 days would be another $20 on top of that. So it's gonna limit that. The booting threshold, 3 citations with balances over 60 days delinquent. So that they would meet the same threshold as we do. Also, photographic documentation, photos of vehicles condition prior to boot. That was one of the things that came up from the committee meeting. There was concerns about that, so we added that.
So let me just make sure that everybody understands. 3 violations,
Yes,
and they have to be delinquent before anybody would run the risk of being booted.
over 60 days, yes, sir.
So no accidental parking violation. No accidental, I forgot to pay. It's 3 times. So it seems very reasonable.
So
Okay,
these requirements is, oh, I'm sorry, I left on, last thing, annual licensing fee. If they choose to participate in the program, it's $1,000 per lot. That will help us cover the cost of signage and implementation. So be $1,000 per lot for each one that they want to.
can I ask a
Into the
question
program.
about the signage? Because the idea of the signage is so that members of the public can identify which privately operate parking lots are aligned and fall into compliance with Chattanooga Parking Authority's sort of framework and operating requirements. So that they know that there is a reasonable charge, the hourly flex, all these things that you've just articulated. It might take a bit of time for people to recognize and distinguish private signage versus, let's say, CPA approved signage. Who owns that signage?
We're supplying it, so we own it.
Okay, this is an important consideration. Because if we own the signage, if an operator should not comply with the regulations, or for whatever reason, they were to lose their certification, then we can remove the signage without any fanfare.
Absolutely.
Whereas if they own the signage, it's not so easy.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so that's absolutely cast in stone.
Mhm.
Excellent.
And I believe what we've settled on is we're gonna call it Chattanooga Parking Network. And the signage, we're working on the signs. We drafted them yesterday and we're finalizing those. It's gonna be Chattanooga Parking Network. And it's gonna have its own big sign.
Excellent.
Yes, sir. The next piece of this is the community support programs. To promote voluntary compliance and provide equitable pathways, that's a hard word. Equitable pathways for resolution. Staff recommends implementation of 3 community support programs prior to the start of enforcement. The first one would be the amnesty period. The amnesty period is designed to encourage the resolution of outstanding citations prior to enforcement beginning. It would be a 35% reduction of outstanding balances that are paid in full by June 30th. That would be the first piece. Second piece is a 25% reduction of outstanding balances for anything paid in full by August 31st. And then the third piece is a 10% reduction of outstanding balances for individuals enrolled in a 6-month payment plan by August 31st, 2026. So as long as they come in and I want to pay this off, but I can't pay it all off. I want to get into payment plan. You'll still get the 10% reduction on that. Okay. So that's the first piece on the amnesty period. I'm going to talk about the hardship program. The hardship program provides assistance to individuals facing financial difficulty. The automatic eligibility with documentation, which they would have to establish the proof for this, is Section 8 housing, SSI or SSDI, which is Social Security Disability Insurance or Supplemental Security Income, SNAP or WIC. The income-based eligibility, verification required on that, household income at or below 200% of the federal poverty level. The program benefits of that would be a 90% reduction of the total outstanding balance. And any balance left after that, you would have up to 12 months to make a payment plan on. So that is the hardship program.
Give that a dollar figure again, is 31,000.
It's 31,000. Director of it, yes, sir.
Thank you.
Yes. The third one is the Food for Funds program, which would run June 1st through September 30th, 2026. Working with the Chattanooga Food Bank on this. It would provide a community-based option for partial resolution of citations while supporting local food assistance efforts. Participants would receive a $2 credit for every dollar donated to the food bank. It'll be monetary donations only. You can do so much more with the money than you can with the food. So we're gonna do monetary donations only. And you would be able to pay for up to 25% of your total outstanding balance through this program. I did leave off. We're offering 3 programs. You cannot stack the programs. You have to choose one program or the other. If you choose an MC program, that's fine. If you choose the hardship program, that's fine. If you choose the other, but you cannot stack the programs. It's only one you can choose one option. Yeah. The MC period and hardship program and food for fines program are designed as independent options and may not be combined. Enforcement of parking violations will begin October 1st, 2026, following completion of the community support program period. The financial impact, costs associated with implementation of the licensing program and community support programs will be absorbed within existing parking operations and with the fees that will be on each slide. Procurement overview, this item does not involve procurement activity. Why it matters. Approval of this recommendation will establish clear and consistent standards for private parking operators. It will provide fair and equitable pathways for residents to resolve outstanding citations. It will promote compliance while avoiding punitive enforcement practices. It will also improve parking availability and turnover. And it'll support local economic activity and quality of life. This framework is to balance enforcement, regulation, and community support in a way that promotes fairness, transparency, and accountability. The action item we're asking is that the board approve this item as presented.
Mr. Chairman, before you ask for questions, I just wanted to note that there is actually an attachment that's included in your packet. So board members, if you look at page 40, 41, and 42, we did receive one public comment about this item. And I'll just read it into the record. And it basically says, "Dear Carter Board of Directors, gentlemen and ladies, I think you should think very carefully before allowing these private operators to boot our citizens and our visitors' cars. Their charge of $50 or more for one time of approximately 45 minutes is truly inappropriate. Sincerely, Sue Shaw." And I put that in there for just because that's what we're supposed to do, but also I think that actually the framework that we've put together addresses
It's
this.
exactly designed to prevent it.
Exactly. So anyway, I defer back to you for discussion.
So I would agree with Sue Shaw that it would be unconscionable to perpetuate the existing status quo. That is what we are wanting to resolve. And I think that's exactly what we achieve. So I think maybe you should write a lovely note back explaining to her that this is going to solve these problems. Okay, thanks.
I just want to acknowledge the exceptional amount of work, Brent, and the team that you put into this for years. Research, outreach, talking with parkers, lot owners, business owners. I spoke with a friend of mine who owns a local small business on Main Street. And he told me about kind of the problems of both ends of there's a private lot nearby that is charged up to $80 for people to park there. And at the same time, we have people talking about wanting free parking. And he said in a prior city where he had a small business, free parking just means people leave their cars there all day and he has no turnover and no opportunity for customers. So I think this is at the perfect balance to strike to promote local business and also keep in mind, and I'm incredibly thankful for what you've done with the Amnesty and Partnership as well. So this is not punitive, like you said. This is just getting us up to speed and getting us on track. So thank you sincerely for that.
Any other comments?
Second that, and we have talked a lot about this, so I probably miss it. Do we have like a page, something that we can help like announcing the programs?
It's gonna be we've got multiple pages on the website. with answering, ask questions and explaining everything very thoroughly. Yes.
If I may, just, we were waiting for today's board meeting for the board to take formal action, but we will take live our website. We have a webpage that's got Q&As on all of this. There's a place for anybody that wants to select one of the community support programs. And then I think the most important thing for the board to remember is that no booting takes place until October 1st. This whole time over the summer is amnesty. And then the last thing I would just let you know is that letters after today, if the board approves this, letters will start going out tomorrow to all of the participants, giving them the options that are available to them. So we'll be sending things out, we'll be online, and we'll make sure that you know.
I think I'd add my voice of appreciation for all the work that's gone into this. I think it's a very, very comprehensive approach that is fundamentally rooted in fairness. It's not at all about a money grab. It's about addressing the parking issues that have prevailed for so long. And part of addressing it means managing capacity, both the on-street, our parking structures and private parking. It means presenting a parking product that the zoos of this world don't have to feel exploited. It's exactly what we want to do. And you cannot manage the resource without also enforcement. And enforcement is a toothless tiger unless there are ultimately consequences for ignoring the enforcement. All of these things are now falling into place in a very professional and very fair and very well considered manner. Congratulations. Thank you. If there are no other comments, motion to approve.
Motion to approve the adoption of consumer protection parking.
Second.
4-6.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Brent, thank you for your.
Any opposed? All right, so approved. That's worthy of some applause. Old business.
Old business, yes. Thank you. I have one item for old business. So Mr. Chairman and board, I want to make sure that you've been properly briefed on some of the interaction between the town of Lookout Mountain and CARTA as it relates to the incline railway. And just want to make sure that you're aware of the actions that staff has been taking and that you are up to date on like the immediate next steps. So I've got a slide here just to walk you through some things that have taken place. First of all, there's been some publications. There's a town has a Mountain Mirror publication that goes out, and they did an article recently, and there were quite a few statements made in there that are not accurate. And so I just wanted to, first of all, draw some things to your attention. In the article, what it talks about is that there's sales tax applied to incline tickets, and that Chattanooga, the city, is the recipient of sales tax revenue. But the reality is that this is considered a public transit asset. And it's also a tourist attraction, but because it's a public transit asset, there is no sales tax charged on the tickets. And so what's been incorrectly reported is that the city of Chattanooga is receiving sales tax revenue to cover their costs for public safety or public works at the bottom station. And that's not the case. The city of Chattanooga is not receiving anything like that. But here's what you should also know. So while there is no sales tax, the town of Lookout Mountain in 1991 did go to the state of Tennessee to leverage a privilege tax such that they could recoup some of their expenses that they were experiencing. And at the time, the state legislature approved this. And so the town levies a 9.25% privilege tax on tickets sold at the upper station. And that's been in play for many years. But now the town is seeking additional items. So they've got the privilege tax. They receive sales tax on concessions sold at the top station. So the pizza, the beer, that's the second sales tax that they're receiving. And now they want to implement a new passenger tax with their ordinance number 245, which is to now tax $1 per passenger for all tickets sold. And that price to increase 3% annually thereafter. So this would be kind of the triple taxation effect, the kind of looking for the privilege tax, the sales tax, and now a per passenger tax on this. In that ordinance, what you would want to be aware of is that it also limits the incline's hours of operations. And it limits the total daily number of passengers that we can transport. And so from a business standpoint, I think it's important that the board is aware of this action. And I'm going to give you kind of where it is in play. So the town has had their first reading on ordinance 245. And it requires a second reading. And I'm going to tell you about, they haven't had that yet. And they have agreed with CARTA that they are holding that second reading 1 month for the purpose of staff meeting with the town one more time to talk through the burden that they are having and the expenses that they are seeing. And so that we're gonna have one more conversation, and they've agreed to hold that second reading while we have that meeting, which takes place at the end of May. So that's coming. But the other thing I want you to also be aware of is they already passed an ordinance 243 prohibiting carnival rides and shuttle buses. And this is really what it does is it does not allow, on the Tennessee side of Lookout, it doesn't allow amusement rides, gondolas, or lifts to be constructed. And so I think that this is somewhat of a defensive measure. They are concerned about what's happening on the Georgia side with Rock City building the gondola. And so this ordinance prevents that, but they took it a step further, and they also don't allow now shuttles or buses to traverse between attractions, which would limit, if CARTA ever wanted to shuttle bus, people from the top of the incline over to Rock City or Massey's or whatever it is, now that's now prohibited as well. So I think it's just very important for the board to be aware of these actions as they're taking place. Staff is working, and we've briefed the chairman on this, but I wanted to bring it to the board's attention. Chairman, maybe you probably have comments on it as well, but just to make sure that you're all up to date and we could field any questions that you might have.
What are our current operating hours?
Current operating hours in the winter and summer, Matthew?
It's from 9 AM until 6 PM.
And
that's in the winter, and then the summer.
What's summer? Summer will be 8:30 AM until 9:30 PM.
so the new proposed operating hours from, is it 9 to 4? Or 10 to 4, whatever it is?
10 to 4.
10 to 4
10 to 6 on weekends.
will be quite inhibiting. And then they also have the requirement of a maximum of 500 riders per day. So if you hit that by noon, you got to shut down.
That's what the ordinance proposes.
So this is obviously quite concerning. The inability to actually network all the attractions on the mountain, be it Rock City or the War Memorial or Ruby Falls. In a way, I think very negatively impacts the tourist appeal of the mountain, where the incline facilitated not only an experience, but a way to connect to the other active attractions. I would say that the inability to move people from the incline to any of the other attractions or vice versa, in a controlled fashion with zero emission shuttle buses, will potentially, in my opinion, create now, instead of one controlled and contained vehicle, a fleet of Ubers, or lots of people walking around the streets, or people taking their bicycles up the incline and moving on from there. So perhaps that could be subject to the law of unintended consequences. But more importantly, if the ordinance puts such a restriction on the operating capacity, because that's what it boils down to, of the incline, if it passes the second reading, as was the first reading, what is the financial impact on the incline? For example, would we be able to cover our fixed costs? Would we break even? Or would the incline turn financially loss-making?
I think we're looking at those numbers, but I can tell you with confidence that our high ridership peak months, we're taking 1,600 people in a single day. And so if we're limited to 500, that's a third of the passengers. So 2/3 of the revenue. We'll run the numbers, but that would put us in a position that we're not able to cover our operating costs.
Which would mean that if you're not able to cover your operating costs, it's not sustainable. It will close down. So let me just digest what I'm hearing. If the ordinance passes as read, it will effectively lead to the economic demise of one of the region's major tourist attractions, which has been around for 120 years. I will say, obviously, it's not the first I've heard of it at today's meeting, but you've shared some new insights to me that are even more alarming. I've had an exploratory discussion with senior leaders on Lookout Mountain, where I wanted to try to understand the financial need that was trying to be met. Because I've heard the explanation that there are emergency services and first responders and all of these things, we sort of place a demand for their availability, even whether you utilize them or don't utilize them, and somehow that the financial funding mechanism which has existed since 1991 is no longer adequate to cover that. I'm not sure why. But the sort of response I got was it's not just about funding. Yes, the funding is important, but that really the residents of the town of Lookout Mountain would not be heartbroken to see the incline close down. which obviously is a startling sentiment to digest. It's been around for so long, and I would have to say the incline and the mountain, for that matter, in my humble opinion, belongs to not only this entire community, but also belongs to the people of America. It's everybody's mountain, not just a handful of people. We've coexisted for 100 and something years. I wonder what has happened to make that coexistence now untenable. If the incline were to cease operating, it would have an economic impact, of course, way beyond just immediately as our backbone of funding resource at Carter, which would mean that the transit service that we provide, frankly, to the vulnerable members of our community, because let's face it, that's by far the majority of our riders, would probably have to be severely curtailed, which would be catastrophic and tragic. But the economic impact would go far beyond that. The loss of a major tourist attraction and the economic value that it creates across the tourism industry would be something that would be interesting to calculate. You've indicated that there's ongoing dialogue. I don't know whether that dialogue is leading us anywhere. As I say, I have had in parallel some discussions which led nowhere. I hope your endeavors are more successful than mine. If we are unable to bring this to a collaborative resolution, which I'm apprehensive by if the aim is not merely to have a discussion about funding. The funding is already challenging. If you add other considerations, I don't know how to solve it. Then what do we do? I'll turn to our legal counsel.
You would have to file a lawsuit
We would have to file a lawsuit.
to challenge, if they pass the ordinance, we would have to file a lawsuit and we're doing it and challenge it on various federal and state law issues.
Any other comments, colleagues?
I just want to thank you both for like laying the facts on the table, because like you mentioned, there was a ton of misinformation that was put out in the media previously. And the folks that I've talked to, St. Elmo residents, people involved in other tourism spaces, they're obviously infuriated. But I've actually talked to a couple people on Lookout Mountain that are particularly infuriated because they feel like they've been lied to. That, oh, I didn't know about this kind of overreach that was happening in my city. I didn't know that what was being reported was untrue. I didn't know the history. So thank you both for illuminating the truth of this situation. And I'm hopeful that media will carry that truth forward.
So I'm reminded, Corey, shortly after this board came into being, you may all recall that we had a discussion with the town of Lookout Mountain, who at that stage had raised a concern that during the COVID pandemic shutdown of ticket sales at the top of the mountain, they were losing a lot of revenue from parking and from the privilege tax on tickets sold. We had endeavored to accommodate that by a 50-cent sort of surcharge on ticket sales, which was proposed and presented to the board. But at that stage, I seem to recall we had a a tie-in vote, so the motion didn't carry. Our then new CEO got into discussions with the city or the town of Lookout Mountain to understand their need. Took a long, hard look at our operational processes here and found a way to navigate the downsides of ticket sales top and bottom, because that had to do with capacity utilization and managing queues, all these things, which they did quite successfully and reinstated ticket sales at top and bottom. So anyway, we went back to what the status quo was before COVID, which was the very thing the city had asked us, or the town of Lookout Mountain had asked us to address with the 50-cent surcharge. So I think, as far as we were concerned, we put it back to the way it has been since 1991. And so I was quite surprised, frankly, when this topic suddenly reared its head, because it seems an incremental consideration. So look, I'm always one for constructive engagement and trying to find win-win solutions. I think in my experience, whenever you go with a winner-takes-all philosophy, it doesn't work, certainly not sustainable. Nevertheless, you're busy with budget preparations. I would like to ask you to prepare for our review a Plan B budget proposal that looks at, firstly, you need to put in what would be a feasible amount of money just to put in as a provision, a contingency, in case we need to have battle in court. $300,000? $300,000? We need to put in $300,000 as a contingency. And then you also need to look at the financial impact of the reduced operating hours and the cap at 500 riders a day. So we can really get our heads around what that would mean for our financial situation. And probably you don't need to do this as a precise analysis, because I think I already know the answer without getting into a deep study. But if we lose 2/3 of our revenue, what does that mean to us operationally? What services would we have to curtail? Because if you don't have the money, you can't fund it. Because we need to know where this is taking us.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, the other thing I will have us prepare is the federal impact, because there are grant dollars that have been utilized for the infrastructure, and that's likely to have to be paid back if we're in a negative situation. So we'll analyze the impact of grant awards as well and include that in the analysis.
Well, it's pretty far-reaching. Yes, Daniel.
Just to add, and maybe also repeating, but I hope I can bring more elements to the analysis. It's like to be clear about the relationship between, if we lose the incline, affects our buses. And I think that's, I don't know if it's clear enough for the public. It's not just losing one of our historical pieces in our community, is also impacting public transportation, because part of the revenue there.
Yeah.
So it's like two things for me, and the two of them have like different implications, but the same root problem. And I think the kind of like other implications that hopefully can bring more context about how the gravity of this is, from the way that you speak about the incline, it made me think about, it may be not, I don't know if option, but explore historical preservation in the incline, and that's a process that if we secure one as a public transportation, but other one that it can be closed and it need to be maintained, which we're doing. And that's organizations and processes that I can connect with. And the other one is, because it's public transportation, we talk about access and we also talk about access to public land. So if we don't have access to the incline, people are not gonna have access to park at the top of the mountain, which it's not priority in the conversation, but also I think in case this gravity of the situation. So just like to add more into the conversation.
And keeping in mind that the incline is not exclusively a tourist attraction. There are individuals that we know that use this as public transportation. We talked about Miss Gigi's video, but Jordan's video prior, just amazing advocate that, you know, uses the incline as his public transportation. So.
Yeah, that's a good story, and it's true. So he lives on Lookout Mountain, and then he uses the incline, comes down to catch caravan to go to his recreational or to work or whatever he's doing. Yeah, thank you for that, Director. So we'll include Chairman in the analysis. We'll include the bottom line impact on our public transit services. We'll look at the historical standing, access to the state park that's at the top, all of those things. Okay.
All right. Gosh, I'm just stunned at this development.
I will take the meeting that's on the calendar as planned, which is the end of May, and then I will report back to the board about next steps.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Customer satisfaction results, you needed to go. Thank you very much. We'll have to talk.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Good morning, Chair Dennison, Mr. Frazier, Board of Directors, and the public. I'm happy to present the results of CARTA's 2026 Customer Satisfaction Survey. This is an important milestone for us because I'm told this was the first onboard system-wide customer satisfaction survey that CARTA has ever conducted. The survey was conducted in February and March of 2026 by the Warner Transportation and Consulting Group, and included riders across all major CARTA services. That included fixed route buses, Caravan, Car2Go, and the Incline Railway. More than 1,500 riders participated in the survey, and the purpose of the survey was to better understand the rider experience and to establish a baseline that we can use to measure progress year after year. Overall, the results were very positive. About 73 to 75% of riders reported being overall satisfied with CARTA services, and the Incline received the highest ratings at approximately 88% satisfaction rate. Riders identified affordability, driver professionalism, and cleanliness and convenience as some of CARTA's biggest strengths. Nearly 80% of riders agreed that fares are reasonable, and most riders said CARTA meets their transportation needs. The survey also highlighted areas where riders would like to see improvements, such as on Sunday service, weekend frequency, on-time performance, and bus stop amenities and accessibility. When asked what should be prioritized moving forward, riders consistently identified keeping fares affordable, expanding weekend service, improving reliability, and enhancing bus stop infrastructure. The survey also reinforced CARTA's important role in the community, with many respondents identifying as frequent riders, as nearly half reporting household incomes were below $25,000 annually. Most importantly, the survey gives CARTA its first true customer service experience benchmark, and these findings will help guide service planning, future investments, and CARTA's 5-year transformation roadmap while helping us track measurable progress over time. Thank you for your time, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
I'll just first say that I promise I didn't fill this up 1,500 times. But I mean, you can see the areas for improvement I brought forward.
We've spoken, yeah.
Especially from our rider.
Nothing surprising.
I mean, this is exactly what we know we need to be working on. So it's really good to see that validated and reinforced with our broader sample size. I just want to say thank you for doing this work. Like you mentioned, this is kind of a historic outreach situation, and I'm excited to see that continue. And for where we are and how underfunded we continue to be, that is a pretty impressive score that I know will only
It
improve.
is.
So,
I think what I also draw encouragement from is that the long-term vision for Carter that you and the team have developed addresses all these things.
It does, and thank you for acknowledging that, but, and board members, I'm gonna make sure that you get a deep dive on that 5-year strategy, because Doug is gonna be presenting to you in August, I believe, the bus stop infrastructure plan. So we're gonna be bringing you a policy on the minimum requirements for bus stops. We're talking all ADA accessible, landing pad, real-time information, shelters, all of that piece. And we've done a complete inventory on the entire network, and so we will actually be asking you to fund an improvement plan for everything that's not currently ADA accessible. So that's coming. And then in the 5-year service plan, what happens in year 2 are the weekend frequencies. That's the priority. It's that Saturday and Sunday, because that's really one of the biggest opportunities to grow ridership and make a big impact for people getting to work. So many of the jobs are available on the weekends, and they're later hours as well. So we'll make sure that your parachute's properly packed so that you understand that plan in great detail.
I do have one request that may have honestly already been fulfilled, but in our digital packet that we received, we got the full study that had every breakdown of every metric, demographics, age, all that stuff. Is that something that can be posted on our public, when we post our board meetings, so the public has that same insight?
Can do.
And then just for the board, if you didn't get a chance to do that deep dive look, page 33 of the in-depth report has this quadrant of like priorities versus satisfaction. So you can easily see like the one quadrant that we really need to be focused on. So thank you.
I also just want to say thank you for giving riders the opportunity to express themselves. Everyone can't come to our rider committee meetings, but those flyers were up and available to anyone who took the time to scan those QR codes.
Yeah.
Any truth, Ms. Sandifer, to the rumor that you filled out multiple?
I'm gonna say that before.
And one final comment, board members, this is not a one and done. So this is programmed to happen on an annual basis so that we can actually track our progress, and so that we're holding ourselves accountable to the riders and through their eyes. So more to come.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Motion to adjourn? Second?
Second.
Meeting adjourned. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.